Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 167 of the Broken by Concept podcast. We've got Nathan Mott and Coach Curtis here today. I want to kick it off with a bit of a personal kind of story with my own solo queue, and then how this kind of blends into the topic of motivation. This is, as you always say, Nathan, a motivational podcast. We don't actually talk about motivation specifically nowadays that much. Now, I've been on this, I would say I'm obsessed with the theme of, at the moment, I guess complacency. Getting complacent with your journey, whether it's getting complacent with your reviews, whether it's getting complacent with your intensity, whether it's getting complacent with just the way you're conducting yourself on the Rift.
This has happened in the last just week or so, or
no? I mean, just in general,
this has been building up for a couple of months.
I would say it's not even just me. I think I am an example of it, but it's something I've noticed with certain clients inside the MLA, and it's so goddamn easy to get complacent. Right, it's so easy,
especially after long periods of time. That's the thing. The time's the killer, isn't it?
Right, the time. Yeah,
it's easy to jump in with new champion, new split season. I just joined the MLA. I just joined Soul 2. Yet I'm getting some results. When it starts going bad, it's easy to just be like, eh.
And I would say actually it's the other way around. I think when things go well, I think it's even easier to get complacent.
That's
because
true.
Things you get comfortable, right? And typically it actually starts with a lot more generalized statements, not getting into the details as much. It actually starts with getting sloppier with the reviews, typically. And I've been, very thankful. I've had AJ in my Discord kind of looking at my gameplay, and he kind of gives me he notices things. He's like, you're so sloppy with your combos here, or you're not using your phase rush very well, or you're playing as if you have phase rush when you have first strike, whatever it might be. And I had to really look myself in the mirror and be like, what am I doing? Like with my journey, my own solo queue, how am I conducting, do an actual audit essentially of how am I conducting myself altogether with my league journey, process, reviews, champ pool, just decision-making,
intensity when you play the game, specifically early game,
tilt,
game,
everything.
Yeah.
I wanted to do basically a full body checkup of my own solo queue. And I basically came to the conclusion that, subconsciously I'd gotten complacent, and I think, one of the most toxic things that stems from complacency is a sense of entitlement. Like you feel like you kind of deserve to win. You deserve to get the LP. You feel like you've put in the work, so you're like kind of inherently easing off because you feel like you should be getting results or should be getting LP or wins a lot.
It's like my baseline skill level, from your perspective. I've been challenged every season. I'm just going to quickly just climb up to that. Not too bad. It's not going to take that much effort.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like I took my foot off the gas per se, and that's led to me to being not playing optimal League of Legends. And I said to myself, I'm not pushing. I'm not actively pushing, like really, really pushing. And to climb in League and overcome through a plateau, just like you would in anything, you got to get uncomfortable. You got to actually enter the Rift with the intention to push and get uncomfortable and make decisions.
Take control of the game.
Take control.
Yeah.
And as easy as that sounds, it's, and it does sound like simple advice. Sometimes it is the advice that we need to hear.
It's just switching that mindset, right?
Yeah, it's a mindset switch, 100%.
It's like, how can I take over this game? How can I? It starts from level 1. I find a lot in my clients, like, I'm going to defend. It literally, as simple as it just starts with defending level 1 invade.
Doing a proper 5-point.
Just do a proper 5-point. That's where it starts of intensity. I saw, a couple of reviews today, just like, my clients are pretty good with it, but I observed their teammates. We actually call it the Spotify death. That's what I started to call it. Is like, because this teamer ran straight towards, he was 30 seconds late out of base. They were invading. He was just like alt tabbing, changing his Spotify playlist. That's how I sort of like visualize like what they're doing. And then he like face checks them. He's like, oh shit, everyone's there. You overstep because they just not even look at the computer. And then he walks backward, flash into the wall and dies. Like that's just so.
It's an unfocused death.
It's just like you're just queuing up to queue up, just getting to play some League of Legends games.
Yeah, and the word I've been kind of using for myself is like just attacking the game. Like actually like really just attacking the game.
That's not to say you're forcing things, obviously,
No.
right? You're still playing good League of Legends. But the moments that you can attack, you will attack. You're thinking proactively.
It's just like really being 100% involved, all my mind, essentially. And I just wasn't feeling it. I know deep down, because you can't lie to yourself. Like, you know you're bullshitting yourself. And I'm like, you know what? We need to revisit some Goggins. So
David Goggins,
David
can't
Goggins,
hurt me.
obviously, you've got the book here. And when we were doing the BBC book club, that was one of our first books that we did.
Yes, it was the first
and
book.
it was a banger, right? A lot of us resonated with it. And I've always been on the fence with the David Goggins mentality. I think there's parts of his book and his messages that I think are very relevant, and other parts maybe not so much. And I feel like this is with all the books we read, is that it depends where you're at in your life, right?
Yes.
You might hear something one time.
You
You're like,
need that for you right now. You need to push.
Yes, I
Maybe
need a
you
dose
to
of Goggins.
Maybe
you
you
know?
need to tone it back a little bit. Maybe you need to think more long-term process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like right now I needed to hear
need David
his
Goggins,
message. I need someone
yeah.
up my ass just going like, get your shit together. Attack the games, just be more aggressive with your overall just approach to improvement, and get your shit together, essentially. And so what I did the old classic. I go onto YouTube, typing David Goggins motivation.
I love it.
And I clicked on this video. So we're going to be actually looking at true kind of timestamps of this video, that when I was listening to it, it just deeply resonated.
It's clicked
With me, and it just clicked, and it was what I needed to hear. And so much so that a lot of this, I actually made a complacency video on my program about
cool.
this, like a psychology thing
Yeah.
about it, because I think it was so relevant for a lot of people. Now, look, people who are about to listen to this, you might be killing it. You might be on your game. You know your process. You are holding yourself to a high standard, and this may not resonate with you.
Stop watching right now if that's you. Stop.
But
Stop the
other people
podcast.
do need this.
Yeah.
Like, I think that there are probably a lot of people listening there that need that kick up the ass. So we're going to be kind of dissecting two parts of this.
Yep.
And then we'll kind of have a chat about it.
Super exciting. I love, we talk about this is the motivation, I say it's the number one solo queue motivational podcast. We're getting back to some motivation here, guys.
Right. So this one we're going to watch until 1:14 here. So you ready?
I'm ready.
A lot of us dream big. You should dream big. Dreaming big is important. Some of us want to be doctors, lawyers, dentists. Some of us want to be in special operations. So we have this big dream. You can see it so clearly, like it's right in front of you. You can go out and touch it. But the thing about it is, somewhere, if you dream big enough, somewhere down that journey, that dream becomes a motherfucking nightmare. And what happens in that nightmare, you start to have all these questions. Like, if you want to be in special ops, you may not be a great swimmer. You may just realize that I'm not a great swimmer, I'm not a great runner. You may start to fail tests. And all these questions start to flood your mind. Why am I here? I'm not good enough. Trust me, I know all about the fucking questions. They will flood your mind. If you do not have the answers for them, you will quit. The answers lie in the repetitions. You must not forget the repetitions you put into trying to dominate the craft that you're in today. Always, always embrace the suck, adapt to the suck.
Oh, the first one that stands out to me, Curtis, that's just so relatable, isn't it? Dreaming big. I love how he says it turns into a motherfucking nightmare.
That's just so real.
That is so real of League. It's like, I want to be a challenger player. I want to get to diamond thing. And you're get into it. It's like, I joined Soul 2 and then Emily's like, what the fuck have I got myself into?
You get kicked in the nuts.
You're just like, what are the questions? He's right. Like,
that's exactly how it
the
works.
voices in their head is just like, what are you doing? You're a piece of shit. What are you doing? You're not good enough. You're not a gamer. You're not talented. You can't even click the mouse properly. Like, all these things going in your head. It's like, I got to have a big champ. Like, all this bullshit comes into your head, and it is a nightmare if you don't deal with it properly. That's a lot of what our podcast is, Curtis, is we build toolkits to deal with these nightmares and making people aware of the type of things that are going to be popping into their head, so then we know how to dispel those.
But that's what I love about this little segment here, because that's exactly what he says there. The questions, those questions, you can't bullshit your way out of answering those. You have to have an answer.
You have to answer. Otherwise, it's a nightmare.
It is. You have to have an answer.
Yeah.
So, and if you haven't been putting in the work, you won't have an answer.
No.
Because he's like, the answer lies in the repetitions. If you have this ambitious goal, like, not everyone in our programs has an ambitious goal, but like, the people that we work with that have ambitious goals, they want to be master, they want to play for their collegiate team, they want to get, they're in bronze, they want to get to diamond, they have these massive
jumps.
Yeah. The reality is that you will know if you're bullshitting yourself. Like, you will know, because like you can't create confidence. You can't you can't artificially create it.
You can do it initially. It's like, oh, it's really cool. I'm making some progress. But let's say someone joins our academy program, bronze to diamond. It's like, dude, that is a brutal journey. And you're going to get into the shit in a couple of months' time. And it's going to be a nightmare.
And you're going to hate the game at some point.
You will.
And this is the thing is like, and the questions that come, it's like, what am I even doing here? Why am I doing this? I could have just got to gold, got the rewards and pissed off. I could have.
Why am I putting myself through this?
Why am I doing this? Why am I spending my time when I could be doing this? I could be doing that. These are the questions. If you don't have, the question we always say, Nathan, why am I playing League?
Yeah.
That's
such an important question.
That's an important question. Yeah. Like, what does League do for me in my life?
That's going to be important. That's an important question, important part of your toolkit. When it starts to become a nightmare, you hate the game, you need to bring it back. Why am I playing it? A lot of our answers, Curtis, is we love the competition. We love the way it feels to play high intensity League of Legends. We love the complexity of the game.
Because I said, and I made a video riffing off this, and I said I had to be honest with myself because I don't have to theoretically get to high challenger every season. People would still buy my coaching.
That's right.
People would still join my program. People would still think I'm a great coach. I don't do it for anyone from a business perspective. It makes no sense. I could be making more money, spending all this time playing solo, you're doing more coaching.
Get another couple hundred clients.
I could do heaps of shit.
Yeah.
I do it because I love the game. I love the craft. I love the competition. I would rather do this than anything else. That's just it. Right? And just reminding yourself, okay, that is right. Yeah, fuck, that actually is the case. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else.
So you had that thought and it says, okay, well, I've accepted that I don't want to be doing anything else. Now I need to push myself. Like, if that's the case, like, let me at least put effort into this.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like, take pride in your craft, 100%. And so I think that, like, that's one of the tough questions. Like, why are you even doing this? Why are you playing League? I think another one is, are you even good enough? Like sometimes, and like the way I answer this is like, no, right now I'm not good enough. Okay, so what am I going to do about
figure it out.
These are important questions to ask yourself. What is actually going wrong? How am I specifically losing games? And like, it just kind of pushes you down that path of just getting more and more granular and actually just exposing yourself. Like, and I just had to look at it and then go back to my gameplay. I'm like, okay, this game, I played Jace. I played this fight as if I had phase rush. I went in for this kill. I misplayed the skirmish. I died. And this really ruined my game. And like, I just look at it and I observe it. I'm like, this is it. Like, this is my Jace skirmishing right now is why I'm not climbing. And I can just look at it. It's like clear to me. But that makes me in a way kind of, even though it's not like I can immediately fix it, at least I've identified, like, I'm not bullshitting myself. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do to get better at skirmishing? I got to spend more time playing Jace. I got to watch other people play Jace. I got to attack my LoL state usage and prime my brain better and think about key threats and think about my role. Like, I got to just be attacking more.
I love that word, attacking.
Yeah, me too.
You're attacking the problems.
You got to attack the problem. That's how you get real results in League. And especially if you have an ambitious goal, you have to attack
over a long period of
time. You got to be relentless in a way. Because it's not just going to stumble, the learning's not just going to stumble onto your lap a lot of the time, especially when you're at a plateau point. You're not just going to dick around and it's just going to be like, here's this massive learning. Here it is on a platter in front of you. This is all you got to do. No, you got to be really curious. You got to want to find it. You got to be on your hands and knees trying to find what's actually going wrong a lot of the time.
League's so difficult because it's like, this might be the thing that you're learning. And then the next game, a different mistake happens. And then it's like this, and then you're making this mistake from, months ago. And it's like, oh, that's sloppy, It's like, I had an example of a game yesterday of like a specific matchup that I know was not going to influence the game. I tried to force a level 3 gank, and it just straight up lost me the game. And I had made that mistake in that specific matchup so many times. It was Renekton specifically. It was Renekton. I had a Renekton. It was against an Udyr. Even if I kill the Udyr, it's going to be hard to repeat kill him because he has so much good wave clear under his tower. He's got the Awakened W. Like, it's not actually a good win condition for me. I had so many other win conditions on the rest of the map. I had like a Thresh Ashe bot lane, which is super important. So much pressure. And the thing, going into the game, I literally said, okay, I'm going to maybe look top if it's heavy trading, but I'm not going to force the top go bot. But then I just went there, dude. I'm just like, fucking wake. I was so angry at myself.
Yeah.
I stopped making those mistakes in those matchups many months, years ago. And I fucking made it again.
That's an example of a nightmare.
Yeah.
Immediately you're in a nightmare scenario.
You're in a nightmare scenario. Yeah.
You're in a nightmare scenario. And this just happened.
And then I have to go through the next 25 minutes just saying, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this is what a waste of a game.
Yeah, so at least, so I think the main message, at least I took away from this is, the questions, and you better have answers to those questions, and the answers really are in the repetitions, and you can't fake it. You can't bullshit yourself, and you'll know if you're putting in the work or not. You'll know if you're expressing your best self or not. You'll know if you're getting into the details or not. That's it.
And the last part of that is embracing the suck. You got to embrace it.
Yes.
You got to be like, okay, this is where I'm at. This is exciting. Let's see where I can be in 3 months with repetitions. That's such an awesome question to ask, because 3 months is coming regardless. It's like, let's say, imagine if you have this idea of like, okay, let's say if you're just starting the gym, or you've been to the gym for a while, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go hardcore for a period of time, and 3 months is going to happen at the end of it. So do I want to do those days, or do I want to do those days? The 3 months is coming at the end of the day. Well, where do I want to be? In those 3 months, where do I want to be at in those 3 months? Same thing for, you can apply to league.
Moving on, you want to go to the next segment? Yeah.
So I think we got 3 minutes 15.
Okay. 3 minutes 15.
I love this. We just need some motivation in the BBC Universe, guys.
We do.
Joined the military, I got some of the worst advice of all time. That advice was to blend in. Don't stand out. Make sure that, if they don't volunteer for anything, don't do any of that, exceeding the expectations, trying to be your best. And that mentality right there is exactly what keeps you at mediocre level. And I call it the blending in mentality. So if I had that mentality, I would have had, you know what, I'm okay at 297 pounds. I'm okay not liking to run, not liking to swim. I'm not going to try to be a SEAL. I'm not going to go to Ranger School. I'm not going to try to, push these limits in ultra races. Your mentality just stays there with the blending in. If you look around the society right now, there's a lot of motherfuckers who are blending in. You can see them. They're blending in. Change your mentality and never blend in.
I think we missed the first part of that, but he said when he joined the military, he got the worst advice of all time. I think that's important because people think of the military as like a really, pushing yourself type of thing. And, this is David Goggins, the Navy SEALs, talking about this.
Yeah. I mean, at least for me, what I took away from this is
the blending in mentality.
Well, I just feel like, I feel like for me, again, I think this might resonate with everyone differently. At least for me, I felt like I was trying to do the bare minimum. And I think that I was like, okay, what's the bare minimum I could do with my process to get the results, rather than like, again, really, what's the above and beyond version of that look like? Like, and what does that mean for my process? What does that mean for my intensity? Like, and I've actually started to actively pragmatic things in my thing. Like I started to do LOL Dodge Game again. Listening to motivational things to get me in a better headspace heading into games, like actually taking my sleep, like really, really taking my sleep seriously at the moment. Another one, like watching reviews. Again, I being complacent with this, watching reviews before blocks. Watching reviews before blocks gets you in a particular headspace because I know what mistakes I was making. Just all these little things, just as well, just with my intensity heading into the game, just like really thinking about, okay, what's my role this game? And just like really getting my head into the game, into this comp, like little things like that. And they just level up my game. They just make my threat assessment better, makes my decision making better. I'm just more focused. And so this is kind of what I've been taken away from this specific thing. I feel like I was leaning more towards mediocrity in the way I was approaching my solo queue.
So it's really interesting because he actually talked about, what was it here? He said a couple of things saying like, oh, I'm okay just being at, this amount of weight. Like, I'm okay just being like here, which is interesting because I actually use that as a tool to get results of being like, remember, I mean, this would have been in the first 100 episodes, maybe long-time listeners remember this. I talked about this tool a lot that I used was like, I'm just going to be, if I'm just like, sitting as a master tier player, like, and I feel like I'm pushing myself and stuff, then, that's just it. Like, that's my skill level. But allowing that sort of shedded the expectations, and I was able to go into games and play more free flow and stuff like that, which actually allowed me to push the challenges. So it's interesting again how you talk about, sometimes you need this in different sort of times in your life. Like I think this would be really helpful for other moments, but that was actually a really part of my toolkit of just saying, oh, just like if that's it, if I'm just a Diamond 1 player, Diamond 1 coach, that's just a reality. That's just it. actually worked really well for me.
Yeah, because I could see how that would be you're basically removing expectations. You're saying like, okay, well, it's not a big deal. I don't need to do this right now. It's kind of like taking
No, I
the edge
definitely
off.
need to do that right now. Like, but I'll just have to accept of what my level of success with my coaching and stuff would
Right,
have to be.
right.
If I was a Diamond 1 player.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I
It's
think
like a trick. It's
it's a
so
trick.
fucked up.
It's a weird
I'm
trick.
trying to trick my brain. That's what it's doing.
You're
dude.
trying to give yourself less pressure, which allows you to just go in with free flow mentality and actually just have
Have fun playing the
more
game.
fun, right?
Yeah.
And that's just
And not be attached to the results of the game
Yeah.
anymore. Just be like, okay, well, I'm just chucking in my 3 block. I'm probably not going to get anywhere, but
Right.
I'm just playing League of Legends.
And I think again, this is you raise a really good point. It really depends where you're at in your journey and what part of the message resonates with you. Because I'm the opposite. That's not what I need whatsoever.
Yeah.
I've had that mentality.
Yeah.
And I need to switch it up because
Yeah.
obviously the mentality hasn't been working.
Yeah.
So like for me, I'm doing the other side. So, but I will say this quote, like the whole kind of blending mentality, I think this perfectly describes the average solo queue player.
Yes.
Because this is the thing, right?
But are you talking about more? You're going to go more to like pings and taking control of plays. You're just trying to like sit back, blend in, and let someone else make
Well,
that
that's
barren
one.
call or
I mean,
something.
I wasn't going to go there, but
Okay.
yeah, you're spot on.
That's what when I first think about the
Interesting.
blending in my games, they're just sitting back in some fun. They're not going to make any big plays. Just going to sit back and just hopefully they win the game. They don't feel like taking control of the game.
Right.
They don't even have they're not even trying to pursue the mastery of know what it feels like to take control of a game with their champion.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on. I think that's that's a great observation. I think that's definitely relevant. The way I kind of took that was more just in the way people conduct themselves in solo queue in general. It's like, well, there's a guy that I know that goes to my school that got to Diamond, never reviewing and playing 17 champs and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, therefore, why do I need to try? Why do I need to go about? Why do I need to be strict on my champ pool? Why do I need to focus on the fundamentals? He didn't do any of that. So it's kind of like what I hear the most is like, there's this streamer that does this, there are people higher than me that do that. Why should I push? Why should I do 3 blocks? They don't do 3 blocks. So it's kind of like that, blending in with everyone else. I don't feel like I need to push above and beyond because some other people have gotten results doing it the half-ass way. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like everyone...
It's like, how can you figure out a way to get even higher than like push high, like push past them,
Right.
Like these, like we see a lot and what we talk a lot about with the high elo community and like content creation challenges, like, if they're not pushing yourself, dude, League will punish you over years. We
saw that with Saber.
Yeah, exactly right. So he put himself in as a nightmare. He was a living nightmare because there was no review. He wasn't adapting his champ. He was just playing Caitlyn all the time, the same build. That's a great example going back to the first clip. Dream big. Let's say he wants, he's like, I'm a challenger player. That's his dream. That's his goal. And then, he's just lying to himself every day and just not adapting and stuff. So that's the thing. Like these people, sure, they're at where they're at now, but you see in a couple of years' time.
It catches up to you eventually.
It catches up to you.
It's actually catching up to me.
Yeah, caught up to
right
you.
now. Caught up to me. I could like play for the last like 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
2 years at least. Like
You're a great
pretty casual. Like, and look, I would try. But like, I wouldn't say I'm like going above and beyond and be able to kind of reach challenger. Now I have to bust my balls to get challenger. It's caught up to me. That means the average level of play of the average player, whatever, has kind of risen, which makes sense. So I have to bust my balls again. And that's just the way, that's what I love about League.
I wouldn't even say it's that much in terms of, I reckon it's more about you just getting worse.
Yeah, me getting complacent. Yeah.
You know how there's
Well,
no such...
it's a bit of both, but
It's a
mainly
bit of
me.
both,
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Because the way that I view League is like, if you're not pushing yourself and getting better and trying to improve, you're getting worse. There's no such thing as middle ground.
That's what David Goggins says. David Goggins in this video, he says, there's no such thing as staying where you are. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And I actually feel like I got worse for a certain amount of period of time. Worse than I was playing better League in the past. Yeah, you're spot on. And then I got to get better now. So I got to go, you're either in forward momentum or negative momentum. You're either losing, like getting, literally worse or better. That's actually it's like a paradigm shifting thing. It actually is. And I think that's in life. Like I straight up think that's in life as well. Like you're either like doing things to become a better version of you. Like I never feel like you're stagnating. You actually are getting worse, but it's slowly.
Very slowly.
Very slowly.
So
You don't
it looks
even
like
realize
it looks
it.
like you're not moving at all, but you are.
You are slowly
moving.
deteriorating. Yeah, you're never actually stagnant. Like the way I view it, and this might be really like too philosophical, but like every decision you make has kind of like a positive impact on your life or puts you into like a direction where you are expressing your best self or becoming the person you want to be, or that behavior is pushing you downwards. It's pushing you off your path away from the person you want to be. Like, I don't really think there are many activities like rather than like taking a shit because you got to do it.
Yeah.
But like even like outside of that,
That's maintenance.
yeah, but outside of that, even like brushing your teeth is actually a positive thing.
Yeah.
Right? Having a good meal is a positive thing versus a shit meal. There's like, you know what I mean? Like you're either having a healthy, nutritious meal or a shitty meal.
Playing a block with high intensity versus medium intensity and low intensity. Because then again, you can argue, you know how a lot, again, a philosophy that we have a lot, Curtis, is that, you know how people, you know, they sort of start building bad habits of just like not playing if they're not playing full high intensity. We say just get those games and those shitty blocks in. That's actually going to help you long term. So
But
in
I
the
think
moment,
that is
that's
forward.
not going to.
No, but I think that is forward.
I guess it is.
I think
you
it
could do it
still
that
is
way. Yeah.
because you are keeping your rep. You're keeping.
You need to get
them-
the games in.
You get that because think about what's the opposite of that. Like
Yeah.
it is still
worse.
forward momentum. It's
Yeah.
worse, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just slowly forward, but
Yeah.
just trickling forward. You
Yeah.
know. It's like what's the word when you're just cruising on like the lowest gear on a car? Like you're just inching forward, but you're not really going anywhere. You know. Anyway, so but I agree. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting way of viewing it, and I think I got complacent. That's really what it is. The foundation. I got complacent. Now I'm going to rebuild, and I'm actually. It's such a learning experience, like that getting that shit kicked out of you. And getting humbled.
This is what I call character building.
Yeah, it's just
Such
character
good
building. It is absolutely character building. I love it. So yeah, that's kind of the main 2 clips that I wanted to cover today. Hopefully you guys can take a thing or 2 away from it. Now that's the motivation part of the podcast ticked off, Nathan.
Yep. All right, so now let's get into some science, Curtis. Yeah. All right, so a lot of people like to play with music, Curtis. All right, and that's always a hot topic.
This has been a topic for as long as we started coaching.
Yes.
I would actually say back in Direwolves days. This is as long as I've been around in the high-low, you know, since season 4 or something. Is playing with music a positive or a positive thing or a detriment to your focus?
Now, I don't play with music.
No, neither do I.
I like to play with really high game sound because I think that increases my intensity. Hearing the abilities, hearing my I disable my voice lines and all that sort of stuff in the chamber, so I don't have to hear that. But I just feel more connected with the rift through playing with music. Does never work for me, and you're the same, right?
Yeah, I'm the same.
All right, so this is a tweet from Andrew D. Huberman. We love
Andrew Huberman. Shout out
Mr.
Andrew
Huberman.
Huberman. We've actually reference his podcast and his stuff
we've done
on the ADHD episode.
We've done a couple of other ones as well.
Was the one on dopamine or something? I can't remember.
Oh, so here's the tweet. Studies on the role of background music for sake of learning and attention show varied results, but collectively show that if your goal is focus and information retention, then working in silence is greater than purely instrumental music, is greater than music with lyrics. But that listening to music during brief 15 to 20 minute breaks between cognitive tasks done in silence is best.
Okay, so TLDR that. No music was best.
Yep.
Then music with no lyrics.
No. Then purely instrumental.
Yeah, purely
music.
instrumental. Yeah,
Yep.
so no lyrics. And then
music with lyrics.
And then music with lyrics
Yeah.
was the lowest.
Was the lowest.
But music in between tasks could actually lead to increased focus during the task,
Yes.
which makes sense. Which actually is exactly what I experience. Because like music gets you kind of into that zone. Now, I think it's important to note, right, that so to quote that, you know, we'll link this.
Well, because there's a whole study there.
There's a study,
yeah.
he kind of does it. There's a study on it,
Yeah.
but League isn't just purely information retention. So what he said there, he said music that they were talking about, was it focus and
he said if your goal is focus and information retention.
Yeah, so we can't directly take this study and apply it to League, right? Because information retention isn't necessarily.
Are you serious? That's so
It's
important.
a part of it.
It's massive.
It's a part of it, but it's not everything about League, right? My point being is that maybe there are other aspects of music that for some people keep their
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
clicks. It could be like clicks and all
yeah
that sort
keep
of
the
stuff, right?
APM
Like
high or
yeah,
something. There are
APM
other,
high.
that's what I'm
That's
saying.
right.
Like it's
There could be
more
other
complex
variables, yeah,
than
just
it is
focus
bad or
attention.
it is
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
It
yeah.
helps me focus or it doesn't. I feel like League is such like a complex game with so many skills,
You're
right?
using so many parts of your brain.
Yeah.
Physical.
There's the physical and the emotional, and maybe it helps the emotional
Yeah,
aspect.
which is yes, that is what I hear from a lot of
Keeps them
like,
relaxed.
keeps them calm,
Yeah,
relaxed.
calm,
Yes, yeah.
right. So again, I think that it's an interesting study nonetheless, and we'll link it in the description. But you can't conclusively draw, that it's bad for League. But I will say, so really, I think that you got to find what works for you. I will say that I'm going to just go out on a whim here, Nathan, and just say straight up, if you're blasting hardstyle or just some crazy dubstep or like something just incredibly intense, I just can't see a world in which that's ever beneficial.
Streamers do it, dude. They do it. Will you say that they could be better players with it?
Yes. That's my take. That's my controversial take.
Yeah.
That's my controversial take.
It gets them hyped, gets them. So when you listen to that music, it's sort of like increasing your heart rate. But what we've remember the Jono stuff we've referenced many.
That's
before.
right.
We found that playing League is best with
like this steady, like not
we call it coherent
state.
heart rate. Yeah.
Which it wasn't just like a low, it wasn't like a real low. It was just like a little bit above average, I think it was. But stable. You don't want
spikes.
Yeah, you don't want spikes in your beats per minute. You want to ideally be flat, even when shit gets hard or when shit gets not hard, because what we found and what Jono found in his studies and his research was that, to kind of really summarize it, when you would have these massive spikes in your heart rate and then drops, that's where you would lose coherence. That's where you would lose focus. That's where you have lapses in attention. And that's where shit could go wrong. But we know what happens typically when your heart rate spikes and drops. A team fight or a skirmish or a duel, you lose, you die. Boom, that perfectly syncs with lapse in focus, which is the lull state that we need to be using.
Most focus, yeah.
That's the most important time to be focused, to think about the game. But if you have that steady state, we die, we whatever, it's just like, okay, now what? And you're just on.
So maybe these hardstyle streamers, they're just coherent at insane.
Oh, right. Maybe they've just acclimated to that music. Maybe
they're
that is
just jacked.
Really, that
jacked.
is what it is. Yeah,
All the time.
which is concerning.
You're gonna die soon. It's like having Red Bulls and
Like
shit.
what happens
dude,
when they go to a club and they hear this music? That's just their zen state.
That's their zen state. Yeah. Their zen state is hard style, fucking playing Hecarim, running around, fucking popping off, playing Yasuo or Yone or something like that.
Crazy. I got something here, Nathan, to follow on from this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's an interesting discussion we had in one of the Master Plus review sessions this week where the question, it was like a hard matchup. It was like Cassio and Ori. And I spoke about like micro, like things that he could have done better mechanically to either bait out abilities or get better quality trades, right? And then the question that I typically get from a lot of these Master Plus players is, how do I get better micro? Like how do I cross that bridge? How do I level up my micro to that next level? And the way me and AJ, we've had such a similar experience. So this is just my first-hand experience. I view it that there are these like extremely high levels of micro capability in League that not many people know of. And I would say on every server, let's just speak for NA. We're going to speak for NA, maybe NA, EU, OS. I can't really speak for Korea and China, how many. But for those regions, maybe OS is like maybe 5 less, maybe. Probably even 3 in NA. There's only a handful, maybe like 10 or something. And we're going to speak for, I'm only going to speak for mid lane, right? Maybe 5 mid laners or something. And then from what I've heard and what I've spoken to high elo players, and then maybe 5 to 10. And then EU probably more. Maybe 20, maybe 30. I don't know. My point being is that at this highest elite level, what you get is that these players, they are completely one with their champion, such that they don't need to there's no kind of lag between what they want to do with the character and what they can actually do. So if they want to move on the turn instantaneously, there's like this extremely low latency kind of between.
Effortless.
It looks effortless. It's just completely effortless. There's no, like, the way I describe it, or the way I visualize it mentally is that, let's say I have an input, I click, and then there's a piece of information, and I need to react to that piece of information. That piece of information has to travel a certain amount of time to my brain and then back to my hand to click. That time it takes for me is just like a little bit slower.
You have latency there.
There's like latency there. So it's like I'm using some normal shitty copper wire and they're using optic fiber or something, you know? And so there's like a difference there. Now that's one element of it. But then they also have complete freed up mental stack to think about. They know exactly what you're thinking. And at the highest level of League, what you actually get is that it becomes a mind game. So let's say a classic trading pattern is there's a minion getting low. I'm going to time my trade such that when they go for that last hit, I'm going to time my, let's say I'm playing Lux, a Lux E. They know that I know that they're going to do that. And then notice that then there's the next level on top of that. So it's like, I know that they know that I know.
So I need a...
You know what I mean? There's like levels to it. It's like a mind game on a mind game on a mind game. But they're able to navigate that mind game effortlessly every minion, every moment in that lane. And there are players like that have this complete mind-body connection, and that's kind of like what the highest challenger, mid laners have.
That's right.
APA and the NA server apparently has it. That's what AJ was telling me. And when I first Eminez, when he was in O's, he had it. You watch Chovy, you can literally see it exactly what it looks like when you watch his POV. These players have it, right? And he asked me, like, how do you get that? Like, how do you develop this micro ability? And you know what my answer is at this point is you literally need to feel it and get completely gapped. Like so in order to learn a skill, you need to know what it feels like to verse it, kind of, because you don't know what you don't know. If you don't even know what it even remotely feels like to be even on the receiving end, it's like, it's so hard. Like, obviously someone at some point got to that level, like maybe some freak, like there's some freaks out there that maybe just got to that level and that inspired some other people. Maybe that happened in Korea and China and they spread that. I don't know where that started, or maybe it's just a level of gaming prowess that some players get. But I wouldn't even have known it was possible until I versed it, right? And what I said to this guy, I read to Theo, I said, dude, you're going to have to get higher, and then you're going to get versus better quality micro players. You can only get better at micro when you get gapped. Like, it's actually very, very, very hard to learn something when you're not getting shit on by something. And I think this extends even more than micro. Like, you'll verse, I'm sure you, at some point in your journey, you versed some really good junglers or versed great laners that counter what you're doing. You're like, fuck, I didn't even know that was possible. And that forces you to...
It makes you think.
It makes you think. Yeah. And then, so you're trying to find a solution to a problem now that you've noticed the problem. Because you can't find a solution to a problem that you don't even know what the problem is. So it's only when you see it and you get exposed, that's when the real... And that's the beauty of the rank system in a way, right? That's the way the rank system works, where you get shit on and you're like, fuck, that's actually how that works. I didn't know they could do that to me. And then you learn, right? But in the micro aspect, even though it sounds underwhelming, sure that you could do 1v1s and stuff, but you'd have to 1v1 with someone as good as them to develop that skill.
Because if you think about someone like Chovy, right? He, at the end of the day, he learned from playing against people. That's how he learned, right? He became Chovy by versing, players slowly.
That's right.
You didn't randomly just start playing leagues like a 12. It's like, oh, I'm the best in the world, right? This is why it's so hard to stay at the top for so long, right? Because if you're going to get...
Because you're training other people.
Yes. And they can, so that's the hard part about it.
Yeah, 100%.
You got to keep being innovative on your own and just keep pushing, taking to the next level.
I mean, that's why I respect Faker so much. The fact that he was being at the top and then has to verse the top and then gets back to the top and then, like, he's just an absolute just machine.
He's a learning machine. And again, he loves the game, right? That's a huge help of it. That's why, because at the end of the day, he just dropped off many seasons, not being even close to the best mid laner, and he learns from people like Knight and Chovy, I'm sure, all the time, right?
Yeah, and it was just interesting that was my response. Like, you just have to get gapped.
Yeah,
you have to verse these people and get gapped.
I like it,
and then feel it. And I'm like, that's it. I don't really know what else.
Yeah,
because there's no one in the server even the MLA that has that micro, so we can't teach that. I can't just download that skill for you.
No.
Unfortunately. And micro just is one of those very hard things
It
to.
is. It's
At that
very
level,
difficult.
it's very
There's
difficult.
so much that goes into it. It's so difficult.
Yeah,
I struggle with that with myself, right? So,
very hard.
all right, let's jump into SummonerSchool
Yep.
now, Curtis.
Beautiful.
All right, so this week's post, this is one of the top ones for this month. This is from Gleeth CZ. This was 18 days ago. This had 350 upvotes and 100 comments about it. The title of this one is, if you're a low elo player, stop focusing on the details. You're wasting time you could be using to improve at something meaningful. My shirt literally here says get into the details. So here we go. I'm being attacked. Hey, I just saw a post where the original poster debated whether to buy a dagger or cull plus their noon quiver when the enemy ADC has noon quiver plus cull. And I just fail to understand why would anyone focus on such a thing. I guess the curiosity is getting the better of you. It might come as a surprise to you, but this doesn't matter pretty much anywhere. Maybe somewhere on the top of the ladder, nowhere else. I'll put this into perspective. You standing in base for 5 extra seconds, wondering what to buy, will probably have a bigger impact on the game than the decision itself. If you are low elo, you probably backed randomly for items without a second thought and will catch up a few more CS for XP and gold under your tower. Got my point? Get the fundamentals, the foundation of your skill right first. Then there's room for the details as you build onto it. If you seriously want to get better, focus on the aspects that truly matter. Otherwise, your own brain will get in your way of improving. Looking for shortcuts 24/7 will only get you so far, so stop looking for the secret hidden Korean pick and actually try to improve. Of course, I'm not saying there aren't any important details. What I'm trying to relay is that the importance of the basics of the game far surpasses them. This isn't really about the specific examples I mentioned, but rather about the thought behind it. All right, so I chose this one because I think it's great to highlight these type of posts, and it's great to see them get attention on the SummonerSchool Reddit thread. They get highly upvoted. The key line I want to look at here, Curtis, is, of course, I'm not saying there aren't any important details. What I'm trying to relay is that the importance of the basics of the game far surpass them. And I think that's what a lot of people, and especially new players, struggle. Like they sort of understand this, I think, baseline. Like, yeah, I mean, some people maybe just literally think items is the answer to everything. But people really struggle about seeing how important the basics are, I find. I see this a lot in sometimes my academy program as well, just getting that camps, hitting the camps, like not wasting time on that gank. It's so important. And really doubling down and understanding the snowball aspect of the game. We talk about our end of review process, huge part of it. So I think people really struggle with this. I think this community, we really struggle. And the game is so easy to bypass this sort of stuff. What do you think, Curtis?
Yeah, I mean, look, it kind of opens a can of worms. I mean, there's so many ways to tackle this. I think that you could look at it from the perspective of it's easy. It's easier and more convenient to look at these kind of I guess Korean meta pick that they could choose or
the best champion with the best build.
Right. Like what I'm saying is that they're a lot more, just sexier. They're, should I build this item or that? Should I take this room or that? Should I, like there's these small little, I guess rune optimizations, meta picks or whatever. They're just sexy. And they're very easy to do. You just got to click a button, you click this one button and I can do this. And I guess, so there's that aspect. I think the second aspect is the game is just fundamentally just really misunderstood. League is a very misunderstood game, and I think that is partly because of the lack of the tutorial and the way League's already been very vocal about this. We've already spoken about this extensively. The League tutorial doesn't really teach you about what the priorities of the game actually are. There's also a lot of rubbish content out there that is pushing you in the wrong path.
Extremely rubbish, yeah.
And so you're kind of, attacked from all angles there. Yeah. And then as well, like even if you do work on the basics, they won't necessarily lead to results, which disincentivizes you to
focus on them.
So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's like, well, Nathan says that I should focus on my camps. I hit my camps, but then my team's dying all around the map.
That's right.
You know, I lose anyway, so what's the point?
Yeah.
Right. So, and this is the thing. It's kind of like, all right, I've got to learn how to cook this spaghetti dish, and you know, the reality is that okay, I got to get the pasta right, so I get the pasta right, but then I fucking burn the meat or some shit. So, you know, it's not until I then I work on the meat and I work on the meat, but then I fuck up my sauce, and then you know, okay, now I got to work on the sauce, but oh fuck, I forgot to buy cheese. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many aspects until they all come together. That's when you get a beautiful meal. That's when you actually get results. But you got to be patient. I got to work on this first, and then I got to work on that, and then I work on this. And it's only when these things come together that you actually kind of get to see the results. But because humans, we're so short-sighted, we want to get the results now. You know, we can't think in terms of, okay, I'm going to work on piece number 1. And then, okay, I'll work on piece number 2 later. We want the LP now. We want to climb now. It's just hard for the average player to actually get this through their head.
The long-term thinking.
You know, I actually did a review with I think it was a bronze Lux player, right? And this is actually, I was actually tempted to upload this review because I think it was such a real review. What a real bronze review was going to look like. It was a Lux versus Yasuo, right? And essentially what I looked at the first 4 minutes, I think, first 4 or 5 minutes. And at a very simple level, what he was doing is that he was ing the enemy when his minions were low, such that he was just missing farm.
I see.
Right? And then so what happened, we got like through the, 6 minutes in the VOD or whatever it was, and then like he got like 27 CS. I'm like, well, look, Lux really needs Lost Chapter. So when your minions are low, you can't go for it. You need to be focusing on your CS. So your priority needs to be on getting your farm first. And when your farm's not, you don't need to get your farm right now, then we can kind of poke the enemy. So just making that clear distinction between, you know, just focusing on your farm, so such that we can actually get our Lost Chapter, such that we can do something. And then, but then I did all this. I explained it all. I tied it all together, did all it. And then he said, but you know, I was doing this because Yasuo just keeps roaming and killing my
there you go. There it is. Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I get that. We'll address that. But you know,
this is what we're going to do first.
This is what we're going to do first.
Yeah,
Once we can actually CS well and land our ease and then get to our Lost Chapter, okay, then later on we can maybe work on some other aspects that will kind of work on preventing this guy from roaming or punishing him when he does roam. But it's so hard for him, and I understand exactly why he would ask that question, because even if he did what I said and if he follows through with my advice, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win games. And next time he versus that Yasuo, he probably still will lose, right? Because the Yasuo might roam bot and he's not good enough, he's not competent enough with the champ to make up the difference later on in mid-game, or maybe he has poor positioning, poor threat assessment, whatever. So what I actually had to do was that I stepped through. I said, okay, this is lesson 1. This is what we're talking about today. Then once you've done this, you've worked on this, we're going to do this. So you're going to work on your warding and your leaning and a bit of wave management. Okay, once you've done that, then we're going to work on playing around neutrals and how to play around neutrals and controlling zones and, you know, all that. And then we're going to do, and then I think we're going to work on your threat assessment and about. So I said, okay, this is like work on this for a few weeks, then we're going to do this for a few weeks, and then this for a few weeks. And then once you've done that, then you'll be, you know, rock and rolling. So I actually had to lay it out.
What it's going to look like.
What it's going to look like, what skills we're going to have to develop, and how they're all going to tie in together to get to
super long term.
You know, super long term. And that is imagine not having a coach explaining.
That's how people just get stuck forever.
Yeah, just get stuck.
That's why they're permanent.
You're stuck on lesson 1.
You're constantly trying to figure out how to prevent Yasuo from roaming rather than the basics of
That's
getting
right.
experience and gold and stuff.
That's correct.
They're solving the wrong problems.
Exactly. You're distracted, and it's hard to know, right? It's weird because it's like this is a problem, but it's not.
Because the result looks like, okay, he's getting kills. My team's raging at each other. That means like that's
I've done something wrong.
Yeah.
I surely should be doing something about it. Maybe follow his roams or
Yeah,
killing him early or something.
Yeah.
But it's actually all a distraction.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to know.
It's super difficult.
You know, really hard. So I empathize. I definitely empathize with these people, you know.
It's hard. It's a brutal game.
It's really hard. It is really hard. And again, just to tie this all together, you know, the even scarier thing is that, you know, you develop these skills and you're like, but this guy's not doing that. But that's because their champ might not need that skill, because every champ requires differing skills to a differing level. And that's the champ differences. There's champ differences. Or maybe he's really good at something else that you're not. We don't know. It's hard to say.
All right.
Cool. Moving on. Curtis Clips. Here we go. Let's get into the details, guys. And welcome everyone to Curtis's Clip Corner. All right. So We're going to be looking at this was, I believe, a Diamond 2 Ari client. And the point of this clip here today is I want to talk about a review tool. Okay, a tool that you guys can add to your tool shed out back to help you review. Okay, so I'm just going to lay the ground here, set the scene. So essentially, he's a fed Ari, rock and rolling.
Wow, 112 CS by 12 minutes.
Yeah, doing a good job, and shitting on this Kassadin. And at this very moment, the top lane Camille just got ganked by the opposing Nocturne. Okay, now I'm not going to get into what he should have done here. I was going to just kind of lay the groundwork and then we'll kind of come back. So essentially, he chooses to basically defend top from the Rift. He could have gone bot to maybe complement his jungler for the gank on the other side of the map, but he decides to go top and essentially try to kill this Tryndamere. This Tryndamere is like very tanky. He ends up killing the Tryndamere. Okay. So now at this point, to really set the scene, he comes back. He's sitting on a decent amount of gold. Now this dragon is up. Okay, now this dragon, I believe, was the second dragon, and a very important dragon because they're versing a Kassadin. They want to like push the pace of the game, and they got control. It's very important to sack dragons, especially when you're versing a scaling team composition, right? And so Kassadin still has a 16-second death timer. Tryndamere has a 20-second death timer. And the enemy, his jungle is coming straight out of base to want to go to the dragon here. So what actually happens is that he actually greeds for this mid plate. And the enemy jungler goes straight out of base and actually contests this dragon here. And so he tries to finish off the tower actually. And he doesn't have ult. So he, even though he's strong, he's actually not at all here because he has no ult, no mana. He's basically a piece of shit here. And then his team gets collapsed on the dragon. They luckily get the dragon, but then they get collapsed on here. Kassadin gets a cleanup kill. He compensates. He dies.
Oh, everyone gets
wiped.
Oh.
Kassadin gets a double kill. Nocturne gets a kill. He gives a shutdown. The game just explodes, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously there was a lot going on in this little clip, and we got into the details. We spoke about it, but I said, okay, he was really struggling with the idea of coming to this conclusion, like figuring out how to break down this solution.
Yeah.
Like he's like, Curtis, I get it. I understand everything you just said, but how do I actually review this myself? And what I said, and this is actually what I do intuitively, when I'm looking over my macro plays, I actually ask myself intuitively, what would be the most annoying thing if I were the enemy? If I was this Kassadin, what would be the most annoying thing? Well, the most annoying thing for this Kassadin and for the enemy jungler would be you don't go for mid at all. You actually go immediately dragon. You finish the dragon. You insta reset because then there's no counterplay. You would come back on the map with replenished resources. You'd have a shit ton of gold. You would have your ultimate back up soon. There would be no counterplay because the dragon's done. The bot lane would be all good. There's literally no counterplay from the enemy at that point. You could even ward the middle of the lane or some shit if you wanted to. He actually doesn't have a ward here. Actually, no, it's coming up soon. Yeah, actually has a ward. You could basically completely remove all of their counterplay. So when you're looking at these macro decisions and it's like, okay, should I go top? Should I go bot? Should we do dragon? Should we give dragon? Should we siege mid? Should we 4-1? Should we 1-3-1? Ask yourself, if I were that jungler, that mid laner, that AD carry, what the key pivotal member is of the enemy team, what would be the most annoying thing?
What's no counterplay?
Yeah. Then once you figure that out, then you go back and you say to yourself, okay, how would I come to this conclusion? Where would I have had to direct my attention? Then you start to get granular. Okay. Okay, interesting. Now, the follow-up point to this, which is very, very important. I get this question as well sometimes. I say, Curtis, I get it. I understand what you said, but there's no way I would come to this conclusion in my game, right? Sometimes even within my own games, I'll review a situation and I'll be like, I get it. I know what the best decision is, but I can't see myself actually changing my behavior here. That doesn't mean it's a bad review. You still learn about, that's actually kind of what that champion can do. That's kind of what the limitations of these champions are. Interesting. You make an observation. It doesn't, because you're never going to be in that situation again anyway, right? The exact same situation. You're still learning about how champions interact. You're still learning their mindset, roughly what they can do, what I can do. And we can take learnings from it. It doesn't mean you're going to exactly understand it, but you're still taking something away from it, and something is better than nothing. So these are two kind of, I guess, little toolkits, mindset things that you guys can use in your reviews to help with specifically your mid-game macro.
Love it.
Anything else?
So these are really, really specific things as well. The way other ways that I describe this play, we're making 2 plays at once. Whenever you're making 2 plays at once in League of Legends, things tend to go bad. You're basically adding volatility, chaos to it. So what's happening here is Ari's hitting the tower, 1 play. His team's going for Dragon, 2 plays.
Yep.
Right? Things get really chaotic in that situation. And then, as we sort of said, another way I like to put it is, how do I give the enemy team no options? And a really big part of that is resetting, keeping up tempo, getting out of vision, playing around minion waves. Hitting, a lot of people notice hitting towers in League of Legends is generally just a bad thing. Like,
I have a saying
just
for that.
lose your team, your games, dude. Like, hitting towers is such a bait.
So my saying for hitting towers is, hitting towers is a luxury.
Yes.
That's what I say.
Yes.
Right?
So there is nothing else.
Yes,
to do.
you got to tick every single box.
Yeah.
It's like an absolute luxury. It's like a one in a lifetime experience type thing. That's the way you got to view it mentally.
Yeah. It's like fine dining.
Yeah, it's like fine dining. We do it once a year. Me and my partner do it on an anniversary. Go to a fancy
Yeah.
restaurant. That's what it actually is.
I like that a lot. And you know who are the biggest culprits of this? AD carries are huge culprits of this. They, especially as me as a jungler trying to get objectives, I know I'm going to contest it on it. Maybe like I move a 3-4 second window. They love their juicy plates.
Right.
AD carries are the biggest, and I mean obviously every.
They want gold. Want items.
Yeah, I see their perspective, but God, dude, it's just game. Like this is the Ari. Who's the Ari player right here? Like this is a great example of losing your team the game.
Yep.
And it looks very innocent on the surface, but straight up end of review.
End of review.
Get this off my screen.
Yep. End of review play right now. Love it.
All right, Mailbag.
Yep.
Away we go. Jingle song. Alrighty then, we'll start off today's mailbag with a quick success story. I did nitpick this from my my Salto Academy. Give him some testimonials, Curtis, to my program.
All right.
This one's from Sam. The title of this email was Finally Hit Gold. Hello, Nathan and Curtis. Samuel here. Yes, the OG Sammy from the Salto Academy. Thanks to Nathan's program, I finally hit gold with Belveth. I know she's retired, but I love her, so I removed Belveth from my program.
Okay.
Because I thought it was just too difficult. But it's awesome to see that Sam's got some results with her. I've wanted to do this email for a long time and promised myself to write in only once I've reached gold. I just want to thank both of you for the podcast and your programs. A year ago, I was raging on LOL and someone directed me towards the BBC podcast and it really helped me. I was a miserable 18-year-old kid working at a shitty job, not exercising at all, and had a bad opinion about myself. Now I love the gym. I got an amazing girlfriend. I got my high school degree and I'm starting college in 3 weeks because you made me believe I could improve, leave in the fixed mindset. I thought I was dumb. I crushed high school degree. I thought I was weak. I am now strong. I thought I was bad at LOL and now I hit gold. Thank you for making me believe and helping me see what needs to be done to live a successful life. See you later, Nathan. How funny is that? Like when you read that, it's like, that's the opposite. When you play League, it should be the opposite, right?
Yeah.
It's like when I play League, it's like, now I'm a miserable kid playing League of Legends. I work at a shitty job. I don't exercise. I have a bad opinion of myself. And because through this podcast and through League, which is awesome, now it sounds like a meme. It's like, now I love the gym. I got an amazing girlfriend. I got my high school degree. I'm starting college. It sounds like a meme, doesn't it? But it's real.
That's why I started laughing.
It's fantastic. I laugh when I read this
Isn't
email
there a
as well.
meme that goes like that? Though?
Yeah, it is. Like the meme is like, I quit League of Legends. Now I
earn six figures.
I have like an amazing girlfriend and stuff. That's the meme, right? That's the opposite.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely amazing, and it just is a testament to the power of a growth mindset and getting your shit together. You know,
so the big one was the fixed mindset and just thinking that he just didn't have the talent, he wasn't smart, not going to put in the work, understanding process and putting in the work over long periods of time. It's so powerful.
And then from the sounds of things, you know, we spoke about this earlier on today, how, you know, if you think in a negative way and you kind of think bad things about yourself, you're going to become, you know, it's an away from activity, isn't it? You're getting away from the person that you probably should be or, you know, want to be.
Getting worse, right?
You're getting worse in every aspect in a way. You know, it actually got me thinking, might be a bit of a tangent here, but you know how these it's kind of like stereotypes, right? Where it's like, okay, not doing well at school, don't have a girlfriend,
Work shitty job,
and play video games, right?
That's the ultimate mix.
It's like the ultimate mix, right? In a way, it's kind of like video games do make sense in that kind of combo if it's used in a particular way, isn't it?
Because it's the outlet, right? That's the
it's the outlet. Yeah, it's the outlet. It's like the degenerate behavior. If you're sitting there slaving away on your PC mindlessly, it actually is just going. You're actually going nowhere. You're actually, if anything, going. You're actually going backwards, right? Because you're just either addicted, either having a negative experience on the game, creating more of a fixed mindset.
Talk is a raging
at people, having negative social interactions. It's like it's just like, you know what I mean? Like they all feed off each other. Every aspect of that feeds off each other. Because I'm not doing well on the Rift, therefore you think lower of yourself. You get angry at other people, therefore you're probably not going to want to integrate more with society and distance yourself more from society. You're not going to want to push yourself in other endeavors. You're not going to want to go to the gym because you're feeling in a bad mood. It's hard to get motivated to go to the gym with a depressed mindset. So it all kind of feeds off of each other,
Versus then it's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to get good at League. Okay, physical health and sleep is good. I go to the gym. Oh, wow, I'm improving, getting results. Now I'm getting...
And you need a schedule as well.
Schedule more discipline. Now I think higher of myself because I can be consistent.
More confidence.
It snowballs, right?
Snowballs all in the other direction. Yeah, it's really, really cool. It just goes to show the power of just, again, perspective and just having a growth mindset. Amazing stuff. Sammy, great stuff.
All right, next one here. This is a great email case study. Curtis here. So I have read this, but Curtis obviously hasn't. Because it's my mailbag and I choose what's on my mailbag. This one's from Vigil. The title of this email is ARAM Experiment. I tried to improve in ARAM for 2 months and the results are ugly. Hello BBC team. I'm Vigil, the prodigen from the mid lane school. Although I really am just using the service as a donation portal since I've been playing almost exclusively ARAM for the past 2 months. Context, I am silver. And my friends are all platinum and above. When we ARAM together, they always have helpful insights on my gameplay while stomping their opponents. I also have terrible mechanics and have only ever climbed purely through champion mastery. In other words, whenever I'm not on my mains, I play like Iron. This frustrates me because I don't know anyone else in real life who has this issue, and it makes me feel inferior even when I succeed. So for the past 60 days, I decided to play only ARAM to see if I could diversify my skills and improve my mechanics. Below are some basic stats. So he played for 60 days, 243 ARAM games, played 75 different champions, had a 53% win rate, and he got the OPGG score of MVP ace 24% of the time, quarter of the time. Since this is the BBC podcast full of die-hard ranked enthusiasts, I was hoping I could spur some conversation with some upsides to this ARAM adventure. But in all honesty, these 243 games were a massive waste of time and energy. Mostly due to the absurd amount of variables changing between ARAM games. I could not mold the chaos of an ARAM into a productive tool like some can do with the chaos of ranked. You probably already expected this overarching result, but allow me to go into a few specifics that show just how harmful ARAM is to a BBC listener conditioned to idolize ranked queue. First, your champ pool gets killed. Whenever I could play in my mains in these ARAM games, but I performed as well as on them as I did on other champs. I'm just not concerned. I can nearly guarantee that I've lost that special connection to my mains that propelled me into ranked. Muscle memory, champion-specific macro decisions, power spike knowledge, threat assessment, poise, satisfaction, ambitions, identity crisis is imminent. And warning to BBC listeners, every time you go play ARAM instead of ranks, you're likely experiencing a fraction of this disassociation. You will think you are still playing League of Legends and thus you are practicing for ranked, but instead you may be playing water polo to practice for football. Second, your Summoner's Rift knowledge is discarded. My first game on Summoner's Rift since the experiment was just a few hours ago, and I was going to win lane, but while trying to pressure the enemy under their tower, I couldn't tether the turret range correctly and died. Embarrassing, right? Let's try to count the things you cannot truly practice on ARAM. Last hits, flanking, minimap, checks, roaming, going back to base for items, levels 1 and 2, wave management, warding. Every time you load up for an ARAM game, you subconsciously tell yourself that in League, these skills are not valuable, you don't need to practice them, and you've already mastered them. I'm going to have to rebuild these skills nearly entirely from scratch, which probably makes me an iron skilled player. Thirdly, your ability to take the game seriously drops. MMR and ARAM is built for player engagement or something, so I sometimes get a mix of unranked and silver and diamond players in my ARAM games. Ranked distributions are typically a few hundred LP at most for low elo. Combine this MMR absurdity with the fact that some players are on their main, some are first time on their champs, and some just have no cares about the result of the game. All of this results in inconsistency. By the end of my 60-day experiment, I noticed this inconsistency rubbing off on me because it felt fun to try hard when ahead and stupid to try hard when behind. Teammates' body language also encouraged this mindset, with players just dancing and peeing whenever they realized that a comeback was unlikely after 5 minutes. With no rank penalty for subconsciously giving up and no rank reward for consciously persevering, I lost a lot of self-control and discipline during those games. It's not like the autopilot gaming made me happy either. I would feel ashamed after games due to not trying my best. Paraphrasing my inner monologue, how could I, a BBC listener, if my League gameplay feels and looks... how could I be a BBC listener if my League gameplay feels and looks utterly lazy? Finally, the skills I was expecting from the ARAM journey never manifested. I played 75 different champions and learned how to play none of them. Maybe I could have developed some subconscious knowledge about their gameplay, but nothing beyond that what I would have learned in ranked queue. As for mechanical mastery, my micro still feels generally laughable. During the ARAM games, QWER were constantly changing their purposes, so it felt necessary to reassess the state of the fight between ability casts. This meant no muscle memory or fluidity permitted. Thanks for listening to my little rant about ARAM drawbacks, and I hope this motivates people with ranked anxiety to stop taking the wrong cue.
Wow.
This is great. We sort of needed someone to do this.
Very thorough.
Because we've talked before, the theory is that is ARAM a way to learn what every champion does? Is ARAM a way to sort of start building, learn how to fight? Because you fight all the time, right? We talk about the reps. Sounds like for him, it didn't, and the opposite. Just the laziness from the gameplay, that's just people don't take it seriously. Huge gaps in ranked distribution, playing lots of champions, you never really build any foundation.
It's the blending in that Goggins were talking about.
Yeah, it's like everyone in ARAM is just blending in, right? You're not learning any of the proper skills. You're playing a different game.
What he said to me that really jumped out was the thing about ability usage, where even if you were to play a kit, because everyone's just constantly ARAMing, you're never really thinking in terms of optimal combos, right? You're not really thinking of how is this chip meant to use abilities? Because think about every kit in League isn't designed for an ARAM.
No.
Right? A lot of kits are designed for terrain scaling.
Like
or,
assassins and stuff,
using Fog of War or complementing someone else with a Thresh Lantern or something. It doesn't really...
So you're not playing the champion properly.
You're not really playing the champ properly, so you're not even learning the champion.
No.
Like, you'd actually be better off going to practice tool, playing them for 30 seconds to figure out what the kit does, and then going into... Just don't even play it outside of that. So, yeah, I mean... Yeah, I think you're spot on, though. Someone had to do this to kind of share these experiences, and I think that...
especially from a low elo perspective.
Yes, exactly. Especially from a lower elo perspective. But yeah, I think the other one, like you said, the intensity as well. Like, you're just like everyone's just kind of dicking around, not really caring, and there's no real what's the word? There's no real consequences of losing, right? You lose, and it's like there's no LP. So if there's no LP, you're not going down in rank. You're not incentivized to even try from behind.
People will argue, it's like, well, what happens if I have like the BBC mindset or the thing? It's just not possible. I think
it's too theoretical.
It's too theoretical. If you like, I'm taking ARAM seriously, I think that's just not possible. You're influenced by the people around you, behavior. It's really
it might be possible in the short term,
but long term,
but it's just not sustainable.
No.
So, look, at the end of the day, man, your journey's not over. It was it's 2 months in the grand scheme of you playing the game for years and years. It's not really the end of the world. And, one thing I always want to say, and I want to I don't know if I'm interpreting this wrong, Nathan. At the very start of that email, he said something along the lines of, I feel like I'm only at the rank because of champ mastery. That's a good thing.
That's how it is.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it is. That's
Yeah.
not a negative.
No.
You should be only at the rank because of the champ mastery. That's how majority of the player base, all of the player base is like that. So just because your friends could play multiple champions to a different rank, like let's say he said he plays a bunch of platinum friends, they could probably play many champs to like gold or silver. That doesn't mean anything. You know, they are platinum because they have mains. You know what I mean? They are only at that rank because of their main champions. So that's not a bad thing. You shouldn't feel guilty for not being able to play many, many champions to a particular rank. You learn the game through the lens of a particular champion. So I think that's something to keep an eye on.
Also, your friends as well. Like, so initially, when their initial climb, they definitely climb with a couple of champions. Let's say they could, like, we don't know what their journey is. Like, typically what I hear is they're probably platinum for many years and they're just playing all these different champions. It looks like that, but they're building up a platinum but they're never going higher. They're not actually building champ mastery. No. They just have their baseline skill of League, which is like their understanding of the game, general idea how fights work and stuff, which gets them to like a gold platinum level, and they can play lots of champs on their account. It looks fine, but they're not actually going to be building.
You know the way I view that? Actually, it's a very interesting topic there. So you get these people, right, that get to a rank. Let's say a classic one, you get these people who've been playing since season 2 or season 3, and they've been platinum diamond for like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, right? Usually platinum for 6, 7 years, right? And they got there initially by playing maybe a few champs. They main maybe 2 or 3 champs, maybe even 1 champ. They get there, and then they kind of just like
get everything else to a platinum level.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the way I view it, again, that bell curve, they're actually just pushing up that bell curve massively, such that they can actually kind of autopilot at a platinum level now. And so they're not actually getting better at the game in terms of learning new things and pushing their limits. They're just getting the basics of all the champs up to that level such that they can play many champs at a baseline level. So they're not, it's weird. They still are that level, but they're just
platinum.
They're just a different type of platinum player.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's very weird. There's thousands of, that's a lot.
That's very common. I would say that's very common because then the reason that's common is, again, the psychology is like, well, I've pushed. It's uncomfortable for me to push anymore because, like, if I want to now get from, diamond to high diamond, D4 to
I need to really double down on the champion.
I got to go. Yeah, I got to go hard. I got to double down on the champion. I got to develop champ mastery. Or they just don't even know what to do. So if I don't know what to do, it's easier for me just to be complacent, fuck around, play many champs, smurf, and that's what they usually do. They smurf, get smurf accounts up to their rank, and just do that on rinse repeat. It's the comfortable thing to do, right? They're not challenged.
All right. Well, thanks for that email, Mr.
Awesome email.
Vigil. Sounds like he's in your program.
Yeah, and thank you so much for the support, man. I appreciate it.
He's been donating to you whilst you've been experimenting in ARAM.
The MLS cause.
Yes, the charity goes to charity. All right. Next question here comes from Charlie. Hey, we do know a Charlie in this podcast, but this is not the same Charlie.
Okay.
All right. Hey, Curtis and Nath. No, he called me Nath Meister. Cassidy OTP here. I was listening to episode 119 at work today and was wondering if you could give me any advice. From what I understand, playing free flow is having a tidy mental stack and sort of being able to relax and play the game adaptively and using muscle memory to guide me through. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I found that when I play like this, I make stupid plays and give away bounties and almost pseudo limit tests with no intention of learning. And I have lost many games last year from this problem, as I used to be a Rengar one trick and would throw many games doing this. I am better now, but have found myself not being in free flow to counteract this. Feels like I have to keep myself on a leash and not let myself get too comfy in a free flow state. Thoughts are much appreciated. Love, Charles from the UK.
Okay.
Free flow, Curtis.
Okay, so there is a YouTuber that I stumbled across one day, and he basically does like these coding. I don't know what they call them. Like they're like speed run coding things. So it's like a really advanced coding problem, essentially. And I think like the top companies like Google and stuff run them, and I think they use them as part of their interview process potentially or something like that. But there's like a community of people that basically view it as like a hobby. And basically you get this complicated problem and you got to solve this problem and code it and do all this shit, right? And he did this video on kind of like explaining how to get better at solving these problems, even though you've never seen these scenarios before. And he goes deep into developing your intuition, right? And basically how he really excelled at this and why he was the best is that he would basically expose his brain to as many kind of like problems as possible. And then like basically his theory was you need to develop your intuition. Now, the reason I want to raise this is that in League, every game you play, you're essentially exposing yourself to a different problem. So imagine if you played the game for like, you say you played Midland Cassidy for 3 years. You've put yourself in thousands and thousands of situations, and these are thousands and thousands of problems. Now, intuitively, you've solved or attempted to solve thousands and thousands of problems. Now, what that creates is like a backlog of like these past experiences. Now, let's say you've experienced this situation that's quite common, and they all can be, all these rough experiences could be kind of bundled into something very similar. What actually happens is that when you're in a scenario that's similar to that, you could basically, quote unquote, autopilot or just free flow, and your brain will have a really good baseline response to that situation just based off pattern recognition. It's like, oh, yep, there's a low jungler here in the river. I have first move. I'm 6. Boom, boom, boom. Generalist approach. It's usually going to work. So if you were to play with this free flow kind of intuitive state, in those sorts of scenarios, you're going to probably, more often than not, 9 times out of 10, have the appropriate response, right? Now, as the problems get more complicated, as you climb up in ranks, or maybe you expose yourself to scenarios that maybe you haven't seen before.
You're playing versus players that overwhelm your mental stack a bit more.
Yep, exactly. Your free flow isn't going to be good enough. And especially the more you get into mid game, because the situations get more nuanced. Early game, I would say early game is more
relatively structured.
Especially mid to late game, you can get very, very nuanced stuff really comes into play. And so therefore, you'll find yourself your intuition, your free flow just goes in and does something without really assessing the map state, probably because it's a lot more complex, and you just die and you throw a game or something. So the point I'm trying to make is that what playing with free flow really is just purely relying on past experiences and just muscle memory. And so things that you've experienced in the past that are kind of similar will guide your future behavior. But the beauty of the rank system is that, you're not always playing with the same caliber of players. So as you're getting better, if you're trying to get better and you're playing with the higher quality opponents, or the meta shifts and the game changes, your backlog of past experiences becomes negligible, or you won't even be able to tap into it because you're so mentally jacked up.
These are new problems. You actually need to actually start thinking. You can't just be in free flow.
Right.
You need to actually, how do I problem solve this?
We got to go back to problem solving mode.
Yeah.
And so then you got to really play with more intensity, more intention, and problem solve this. And that's where reviewing really comes into play, or using lull states and being like, I actually don't know what to do here. This is actually a bit of a tricky one. And this lull state, should I give this dragon? Should I give this dragon? Should I go top? Should I go bot? Should I blah, 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 blah. And then you have a hypothesis, you experience it, you move on, and now you've developed more muscle memory or something. You've figured something out there, essentially. And that's what I view free flow versus kind of like, I guess,
like starting to think
a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one way to think about it. But what I will also say as well is, in League, no matter how good you are, I do believe though, optimal League of Legends, like you kind of free flow in skirmishes. Like I view my gameplay as 2 different modes. There's like free flow mode where I've like processed the information and now I execute. And then there is kind of the thinking mode, So like lull state's a thinking mode. I'm thinking, okay, well, that's processing all the information. Another way to think about it is actually think of it in 3 stages. Okay. League can always be broken down to 3 things: gathering information, processing information, and then execution. They're the 3 stages of any decision being made in League, right? So in League, you need to be, there's parts of the game where maybe we don't have to think about shit. As a jungler, you're going between your camps. You can like pan camera. You're gathering information. Summoners, cooldowns. Like, are they sitting on a lot of gold? They haven't based in ages. Where's the enemy jungler? You're gathering information. Then, based off all that information, you got to process it. You got to like fucking actually, what do I do with this information? Because just information for the sake of information does nothing, right? So you process it. Like, what does all this shit mean? What is that? If I add all that together, what do I get? Then you make a decision and then you execute, and then there's the execution. So, you know.
So you're saying parts of the game is more going to be free flow. It's not going to be throughout the whole game. You can't just free flow through a game. It's just not possible in League.
No, that's right.
You're always going to be thinking.
And like you got to gather information and process information in those tricky situations.
Well, there definitely is. Like, there is game states and things. So this would be specifically where my head where I'm like, got my second drag, got to win bot lane, win mid, third dragon. Like, the processing of the information is sort of free flow because I know exactly what's going to happen, what's next, what sort of stuff. But yeah, that's really rare.
Very rare.
And that's because, again, I've built the thousands of games. I know how to close out games exactly in that method, especially as a jungler.
And that's why also if you're in a lane phase that you're not too familiar with, like, you're not going to be able to free flow your way out of it because you just have no past experiences to draw upon. But more often than not, though, I find that whenever I enter that kind of free flow state for too long, I'll just make a dumb decision.
Yeah, that's what he says. That's what he was doing.
And you know why that is, though? It's because you haven't gathered enough new information.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
You can't make decisions.
Because the game's changing in real time. Every second, the situation is different. So you got to process new information. So free flow a lot of the time is kind of like you're kind of using what's the information that you had at that time. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one. But then I've just given you a lot of shit you can go off and have a think about.
I can't remember what we talked about on episode 119. I don't think it was in that realm. Maybe that's evolved over time. I can't remember any that episode. Free flow. Maybe there's a part of it as well. Maybe with that, I'm thinking maybe the approach was talking about overthinking. Because then you can overthink in games as well, right?
Yeah, you got to be comfortable sometimes to let yourself just play. And that's skirmishing specifically in fighting. You just got to let yourself.
That's maybe the approach that we took in that episode. I think it was a bit different.
And that's League. League is one of these things where you got to think, but you got to let your intuition go.
But don't think.
Yeah, you got to do both.
Yeah.
You got to do both. And I can't comment for a jungle, but for mid, it's actually very clear. That's why I call it miniature lull states and not miniature lull states. I'm either fighting and letting my intuition do its thing, or I'm processing shit. Like that game we played this morning, I'm thinking, okay, I'm fighting with Heimerdinger, and then I have little laps. I have a little lull state. Okay, where's Jarvan? Boom, boom. I'm processing, gathering, back to fighting. Where's everyone? Back to fighting. I'm just going in and out.
There's no free flow going on there.
Well, there is when I'm fighting. When you're fighting, but like
in the lull states.
In the lull states, that's not free flow. I'm gathering
so much going on.
So much thing. I'm like thinking, where's their support? Do I have vision? I'm leaning. Is their jungler? Where's the jungler? When's he last showed? Has this guy got stopwatch or not? Like, I have to think shit. I have to process. And that's how you break through plateaus, because you're actually playing with so much intention. But yeah, that's tough. It's tough.
All right. And by the way, Curtis did carry me in that game. I was playing another Nautilus support game.
Dude, you play so much Nautilus. It's
famous Nautilus.
Nathan Mott Nautilus.
Yeah, I think I got a 40% win rate on it at the moment, and it's my second most played. So yeah, as a jungler, it's really sad. I get Nautilus quite a bit, but that's why I'm doing Kuyu jungle and support in Challenger on the Oceanic server. Anywho, that's it for our episode today.
Yep.
Good work, everyone. Let's keep on improving, and we'll see you guys next week.